I spent 24 months performing a woman who doesn't exist. Everyone assumes I mean I fake the easy things, smiles, interest, the occasional performance in bed. But I fabricated my entire existence, and now Mark's silence is the only honest thing left between us. They think I'm just another liar who got caught, but they don't understand what's at stake. It's not just a failed relationship, it's my entire rebuilt life collapsing. I stand to lose the apartment, the job, the carefully constructed future I murdered my past to create. And Mark, he lost nothing but a ghost. I'm going to tell you everything, including the part about the body. Because if you don't understand why I became Lena, you'll never grasp why I couldn't stop being her, even when the real woman's mother started leaving voicemails on my phone. The morning I met Mark, I'd been Sarah for exactly 3 days. Not sarcastically, not metaphorically, I'd legally changed my name at the courthouse downtown, trading my birth certificate for a fresh start. I was cataloging books at the independent shop on Elm when he came in asking for architectural histories. His hands were clean but scarred in ways that suggested he built things with them. I liked that. I liked that his life was tangible in a way mine had never been. We talked about Frank Lloyd Wright, then coffee, then dinner. When he asked my name, Lena slipped out like she'd been waiting in my throat all along. The woman I'd been before, messy, impulsive criminal, stayed buried. Mark wanted to know about my childhood. I gave him a sanitized version, all picket fences and school plays. He noticed I had no photos. I told him my parents were minimalists who didn't believe in clutter. That first lie tasted like copper but went down smooth. 3 months in, he suggested meeting my sister. The problem. I'd invented Claire during a late-night conversation about siblings, spinning her from whole cloth, a pediatric nurse in Portland, married to a teacher. So I created an Instagram for her, stock photos of blonde women who could be me with better lighting. I spent whole afternoons curating Claire's life, hiking trips, coffee dates, her cat named Mittens. Mark commented on how much she looked like me. I said we both took after our mother. The fabrication felt less like lying and more like directing a play where everyone got a happy ending. I told myself relationships needed mystery. I rationalized that everyone edited their histories, I just wrote mine from scratch. When Mark's thumb hovered over her profile, I bookmarked our silence. He didn't scroll far enough to see the join dates. I made sure of that. At 7 months, he wanted to visit Portland for Thanksgiving. My stomach turned to ice. I told him Claire's husband had a family emergency. The relief on my face must have looked like disappointment because he pulled me close and said there was always next year. I started checking his phone while he slept. Not for other women, for evidence he was checking mine. I found nothing. His trust was a weapon I pointed at myself. I began carrying 2 phones, my current life and the Sarah life I couldn't quite disconnect. Bills still came to my old name. I'd burn them in the bathtub at 2 a.m., the smoke detector disabled with a towel. The first crack appeared during a dinner with Mark's best friend, a lawyer named Kevin who drank too much and watched people carefully. He asked what high school I'd attended. I named one in the suburb I'd researched thoroughly. Kevin's girlfriend leaned in, her cousin went there. She started nomming teachers. I bluffed through 3 names, then excused myself to the bathroom and vomited. When I returned, Kevin was watching me like I was a blueprint with a fundamental flaw. He didn't say anything then. He didn't have to. That night I dreamed about my real senior year, about the car, about the sound my best friend's skull made against the windshield. I woke up screaming. Mark held me while I invented a story about a home invasion. He didn't know the real invasion was me, taking over someone else's life. My landlord cornered me in the laundry room. He'd gotten mail for Sarah Mitchell at my address. I laughed and said it must be the previous tenant, but his eyes went dark. Sarah Mitchell was in the papers, he said. DUI manslaughter 3 years back, you look just like her booking photo. I offered him 3 months rent in cash, he took it. That was my first significant consequence, and I treated it like a parking ticket. I told myself money solved everything. It always had before, but the panic started then, real and cold. Mark noticed I was drinking more. I told him it was work stress. The truth was I needed something to quiet the sound of sirens in my memory. Things escalated when Mark's mother, a retired detective, suggested running a background check before we moved in together. She said it sweetly, like she was protecting her son. Mark laughed it off, but I saw her watching me over Christmas dinner. Saw her note how I never took my wallet out, how I flinched when she mentioned her old cases. I started sabotaging small things. I'd pick fights about the dishes, the toilet seat, his music. I needed him angry enough to stop looking at me so closely. Instead, he just loved me harder, which was worse. He bought me a necklace with the name Lena on it. I wore it like a noose. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. Mark found my box. Everyone has one, that shoebox of receipts and memories they keep hidden. Mine had my old driver's license, Sarah's license with my real face and a name that belonged to a ghost. He was quiet when I came home, the box on the coffee table like a small coffin. "Who is Sarah?" he asked. His voice was flat, like he was asking about the weather. I tried to explain. I told him about the accident, about prison, about how Lena was my chance to be someone who deserved him. He listened while I confessed to the DUI, to the 18 months served, to the friend I'd killed. His face went pale, then blank. He stood up, walked to the door, and left without his keys, his phone, or a backward glance. The silence he left behind had weight. It pressed on my chest until I couldn't breathe. I thought that was the worst of it. I was wrong. 3 days later, the victim's mother found me. Not Sarah, she found Lena's profile on LinkedIn, the professional one I'd built so carefully. She left a voicemail. "I know what you're doing. You think you can outrun her. My daughter is dead and you're playing house." She didn't want money. She wanted me to admit I'd stolen more than a life. I'd stolen a name, because Lena wasn't just a name I picked from a baby book. Lena was the friend in the passenger seat. Lena was the one who died while I walked away with a shaved head and a sentence. I'd taken her identity like I'd taken her future. The irony was so thick I choked on it. I'd become the ghost of the girl I killed, and in doing so, I'd murdered her memory twice. Mark's mother made it public. She had connections, resources. She found the original obituary, the one that described Lena Davis as a promising artist with a laugh that could fill rooms. She found my release papers. She connected dots I didn't even know existed. The local newspaper ran a story: "Woman assumes identity of victim after fatal DUI." They used my mugshot next to Lena's graduation photo. We looked nothing alike, but the headline didn't care about truth. It cared about clicks. Mark's firm almost fired him for the association. He had to issue a statement saying he'd been deceived. I watched him on the news, hollow-eyed, saying he wished me well but needed to move on. He looked like a man who'd survived a house fire. I was the flame. I lost everything within 2 weeks, my job at the bookstore gone. The landlord evicted me, citing the morality clause in the lease. My real family, the one I'd abandoned during the trial, finally reached out. My mother sent a text, "Saw the news, hope you're getting help." Not "I love you," not "come home." Just that. I'd erased them so thoroughly that when my past caught up, they were strangers commenting on a disaster like everyone else. The only person who still called was Lena's mother. She wanted to meet. I thought she'd scream. Instead, she showed me Lena's sketchbook, filled with drawings of a future she'd never have. She told me Lena had always wanted to move to our city. That she dreamed of working in a bookstore, that I'd lived the life her daughter deserved. Then she asked me to leave her name, to stop being Lena. I nodded because I couldn't speak. The unexpected consequence came when I tried to change back. The DMV wouldn't give me Sarah's ID without paperwork I no longer possessed. The prison system had me flagged. I existed in a limbo where I was neither person. Banks wouldn't open accounts. Landlords ran background checks. I was a fraud without a mask, a ghost without a haunting. Mark had been my anchor to reality, and without him I was just floating debris. The self-awareness wasn't a moment, it was a slow drowning. I realized I'd stolen Lena's name because I couldn't bear my own guilt, but in doing so I'd become a walking memorial to my crime. Every time Mark said Lena, he was saying murderer in a language only I understood. I live in a studio apartment now, paid for in cash through a property manager who doesn't ask questions. I attend court-mandated therapy where I introduce myself as Sarah and watch the therapist's face for recognition. She never shows any. The story never made national news, just local, just enough to ruin one life completely while barely touching the city around me. I work under the table at a diner 3 towns over, a place where no one reads the news. My boss calls me Kid because I never gave him a name. I'm telling this now because last Tuesday I saw Mark. He was at a brunch place I used to love, sitting with a woman who had her own laugh, her own name, her own unburdened past. He looked at me when I walked past the window. His eyes tracked me for 3 seconds, then moved away. No recognition, no flare of anger. I was just a stranger with a face that belonged to a dead girl he used to know. The numbness I'd seen when I confessed was gone. He'd healed. I'd just become more ghost. They say confession is good for the soul, but they never tell you what to do when your soul is the crime scene. I faked it for 2 years. Every smile, every story, every time I answered to a name that wasn't mine. Mark walked out silent because what do you say to someone who confesses to killing your girlfriend's ghost? I used to think the worst part was getting caught. Now I understand the worst part is knowing that for 2 years, I got to be someone better than myself, and the world was poorer for it. The woman Mark loved never existed, and the woman who took her place is left holding the shards of a life built on borrowed time. People ask if I regret it. The honest answer is I regret getting caught, but I don't regret the lie. For 2 years I wasn't a killer. I was just a girl in a bookstore who fell in love with a boy who built things. For 2 years Lena got to live. And maybe that's the most selfish, terrible part of all. I convinced myself I was doing it for her. But I wasn't. I was doing it for me. And now I'm doing this because someone should know the truth, even if I'm not sure I know it myself anymore. Was I Sarah pretending to be Lena, or Lena haunted by Sarah? I lost the thread somewhere between the accident and the confession, and now I just exist in the wreckage of 2 lives I destroyed.